So yesterday we have discussed about the course, what technologies we are going to cover in this course, right? So this course is the combination course where we are going to cover the MCSA and the Azure part. So both the syllabus of the certifications are going to be covered here. Okay. And after this, we have discussed about little bit these technologies, like what is Azure, why we are using the Azure. So Azure is a cloud platform. With the help of this platform, we can run multiple services such as computing, storage, networking, database, AI/ML, and other applications, right? So we have discussed about the Azure cloud and why we are using the Azure cloud. What are the benefits of using Azure cloud? We have the scalability and pay as you go model. So different type of benefits we have of using our Azure, right? So a good integration with the Microsoft products, other products like Windows Server, SQL, Active Directory. So the different integration options we have with our Azure. So that's why we are going with the Azure. And this is about the certification, which certification we are going to cover specifically in Azure. So we are going to cover AZ-104. That is an associate level certification of our Microsoft, right? And after this, we have one second part here, that is MCSA, Microsoft Certified Solution Associate. This is an entry-level certification validating your knowledge upon the core technologies of Microsoft's like servers, Windows, desktops, like these technologies. But currently, the MCSA is retired. We have other alternatives of MCSA, right? So this MCSA is retired, but now we have the role-based certifications in the replacement of MCSA. So we can target these certifications. Like when we talk about the role-based certifications, we have these multiple certifications like Microsoft Certified Azure Administrator Associate. And specifically for the server management, you can go with the Microsoft Certified Windows Server Hybrid Administrator Associate, right? So you can go through these certifications. These are the role-based certifications. So instead of MCSA, nowadays you can do these role-based certifications. And this is the curriculum we have, total 6 modules. And we have discussed about the detail, like which topics we are going to cover in which modules in yesterday's class, right? And we also discussed the job opportunities. What are the job opportunities available here after completing this course, right? You can apply for the system administrator, network administrator, IT support specialist, desk support technician, or a cloud administrator. So for these roles, you will become ready after completing this course. Like we have discussed about the top companies, what top companies are hiring actively for these roles. Like we have TCS, Infosys, Wipro, HCL, Tech Mahindra, and other companies, right? And what is the eligibility criteria for this course? So no formal prerequisite for this course, no educational prerequisite is there. Just it is better to good have some basic knowledge, the fundamental knowledge. Otherwise, if you don't have, so don't worry. We are going to cover it also it from the scratch, right? So these some fundamental things about the course we have discussed, and little bit discussed about the operating system. So exactly what is operating system and what are the different functionalities of our operating systems, right? So when you talk about basically what is an operating system, it is an interface between user and computer hardware, right? And these are some core functionalities of our operating system. Like it is in doing process management, memory management, file system management, device management. These are the core responsibilities of our operating system, right? So this is we have covered in yesterday's class. Now, properly, we are going to start with the very basic, like uh, from the computer. What is computer, right? Everyone using the computers. So, what exactly, how you can define a computer? Like, so anyone have answer? Like, what is computer if someone asks you? So, what you will answer? No one. Okay. Try to make this section interactive. Okay. If you have any basic idea, either it is correct or not, so you can just say it up, right? So basically, what is exactly computer? Computer is an electronic device that take input from the user and process it, then give output as a result. So like this is a very basic definition that you can understand it very easily. So computer, what is it is? It is an electronic device that take input from the user means the instruction from the user and do the calculation means do the process it, then give output as in result. So what it is doing, it is accepting the output data from the users by input. And when user give the input, like let's suppose we are doing some calculation, we have inputted like 2 plus 2 and hit enter. So input goes to the processor, goes for the processing, right? So our processor will process, like calculate the things like 2 plus 2 is equals to 4. It will calculate it. And after this, it will show you the output, like the answer is 4. So through the output, it is showing the answer. So this is about computer, right? And we are talking about the computer. So actually, what is the computer hardware? So computer hardware is a collective term that is used to describe the physical components of your computer, right? So your monitor, mouse, keyboard, cabinet, printer, SMPS, RAM, processor, motherboard, optical drive, hard disk, SSDs, all the physical components that you can touch and feel are in computer hardware. Okay. Basically, it have a physical presence, right? So it is our computer hardware. Like that, we also have the software. Okay. So we have the software. Like when you say what is software? So software is generally the set of instructions. Okay. So if you see any type of software, either it is Word, PPT, MS Paint, or either it is a web browser, Edge browser, Chrome browser, what it is made up of the code, right? Any software is made up of the codes. It consists the number of lines of code. Okay. Through the code, it will achieve the functionalities. So what exactly the code is? In the coding languages, we return the set of instructions like what after this, right? So we write the commands, instructions, rules. So in coding language, we write the instructions. So with the help of multiple instructions, we develop the software. And the software can be a program, application, data that is used to operate computers and execute the specific task. Like some applications, some softwares are designed for some specific tasks also, right? So like WhatsApp is designed for messaging purpose majorly, and the PPT, Microsoft PowerPoint is designed for creating the PPTs, right? So creating for the slideshow, some specific task also it is created. So some applications are also created for the specific task, and it is opposite of our hardware. Like we can touch the hardware physically. We can touch our monitor, our keyboard, mouse. So all the components are physically touchable, right? But when you talk about the software, it is not touchable. If I would like to touch this PDF, so I am not directly accessible to the PDF. If I'm trying to touch it, so what basically I am touching my monitor, right? It is in physical hardware. But inside my monitor, logically, this application is working. So the logical unit that you can't touch, that is a software, means opposite of your hardware. So hardware describe the physical aspects, but the software describe the logical aspects. It is in generic term, refers to the application, scripts, or programs. Okay. And softwares are mainly classified into two categories. So the first category is application software, and the second category is system software. So there are two major categorization of our software. So here in this table, you can find the difference in the detail, right? So if we compare the system software and application software, so there we have the table. With the help of this table, we can easily compare the differences, right? First, let's talking about the system software, right? So why system software is designed? So general purpose software that manages basic system resources and processes. Like first, I will tell the example so it will more easier to relate. When we are talking about the system software, so one of the major example of system software is our operating systems. Like any operating system of Windows means Microsoft, either it is Windows 7, Windows 10, Windows 8, any operating system of Linux vendors, Ubuntu, Kali Linux, Parrot, CentOS, Zorin, whatever it is, right? Any Mac OS. So what they are? Operating systems are system softwares. What they do? They generally manage the basic management purposes, the processes, the resources. Like in my system, I have the operating system, like I have the Windows 11 operating system. It is responsible for what purpose? For the general management of my system. Like in my systems, I have many type of activities. So I have to manage the memory, I have to manage the storage, right? I have to manage the different type of processes. So all these things are managed by our operating system. So what actually it is an system software, right? So general purpose software that manages basic system resources and processes. You can check the utilization and the processes of your system by opening the task manager, right? So just a minute, let me show how you can check. For opening the task manager, there are various ways. Out of these ways, I prefer the shortcut key method, like just press Control Shift Escape, right? When you press these three keys together, so it will launch the task manager. In task manager, we are in the processes tab. So here you can monitor the processes. And when you go the in the performance tab, here you can monitor the resources, right? So the CPU utilization, memory utilization, disk utilization, network utilization. So all these things you can monitor. You can monitor your resources from here, right? So this is for the Windows. The shortcut key is Control Shift Escape, right? Or the alternative way, what you can do, you can go in the task bar, and in task bar, you can just do the right click. So you will see the that options like task manager, taskbar settings. So you can just click on the task manager. So same window will open up. So whatever method you like, you can use that method for opening these things. And if you want to confirm, like I'm using which operating system, which Windows operating system I'm using. So what I can do, I can use a small command to get the system information. So I can press Window plus R. So here the run prompt will open. And in run prompt, you can type msinfo 32. So it command will display the system information tab directly. So when you press enter, so it will show up you the system information page. So here you can find the general information about your system. So here I am using the Microsoft Windows 11 Pro operating system, right? And these are some general information like versions, system name, system manufacturer, system model, system type, processor, BIOS version, installed RAM, secure boot options. So information you can get here. So it is the system information tab where you can get the basic type of informations from one page, right? So for this, you can just use the msinfo32 command. So this is our command msinfo32, right? If there is a difficulty to view, so I have zoom it. So it is msinfo32, right? So you can use this command for going directly into system information. So we have discussed the first point of system software, and let's discuss the first point of application software. Why the application software is created. Like, so software that performs specific tasks to meet user needs. So application softwares are designed for the specific purposes. Like for video streaming, you generally use the YouTube, Netflix. So you use the video streaming platforms. So for the specific task for streaming the videos, the YouTube is created, right? And for messaging, you will use the Messenger application. For browsing, you will use the browser application. So for a specific type of task, the specific application is created, and that specific application is known as the application software that is designed for type of a specific task to meet the specific user requirements. Like Zoom and Google Meet are created for the meeting purposes, right? So these are the application softwares. Okay. Now moving towards the second point of our system software. So written in low level assembly language or machine code. So basically our system softwares are written in low level languages or machine codes. So in programming, we have different type of programming languages, and generally you prefer the high level languages, but our system softwares are designed in low level assembly languages. Means these are the old languages. Okay. And nowadays, the application softwares are written in the high level languages such as Python or JavaScript, right? So you can use the high level programming languages in application softwares. So they have their own differences. Like in low level languages, you have to do the all the tasks manually. So it is a time taking process. And inside the high level languages, all the things, matlab, basic things are taken care by your programming language itself. Like you can say the memory management is taken care by your programming language. The space allocation and deallocation process, that is also taken care by your programming language. The garbage collection. So all these things are taken care by your language in high level programming languages. Nowadays we have many high level programming languages: PHP, Java, JavaScript, C++, Python. So these are some examples of high level programming languages. Okay. So third point of system software must meet specific hardware needs, interact closely with hardware. Like if you will see the operating system, your operating system has some sort of system requirements, the hardware specific requirements, right? So why it is? Because it is in system software, and system softwares are closely interact with hardware, and they have some specific hardware requirements, some hardware needs. Like for example, if you look at the Windows 11 system requirement, so it have 4 GB of RAM is compulsory. The 64 GB storage is compulsory. TPM2 is compulsory. Internet is compulsory. So like there is some requirement before using that system software, right? But in our application software does not take hardware into account and does not interact directly with hardware. So our application software, we will install it according to the operating system, right? If you are going in the browser and search for any application software, and let's suppose this is my page. So I searched for VirtualBox. It is in an application software. Okay. When I go in the website, I'm going in download session. And here I have the downloading option according to the operating systems. not according to the hardware, right? So our application software interacts with our system softwares, right? So that's why it does not take account of hardware. So there are nothing hardware requirements. It will work if it is installed. So it will work, either it is work slowly or it will give you the laggy experience, but it will work, right? So it does not have strict system requirements, the specific system requirements of hardware, right? And the fourth point of our system software, so like installed at the same time as the OS. So like OS, it installed at the same time. Usually it is done by your manufacturer. So whenever you would purchase a laptop or a desktop, so they will give you the system along with the operating system, right? Without operating system, they will not hand over you the laptop and your desktop. So why? Because the operating system is compulsory to use your computer hardware, because without operating system, you can't interact with the computer hardware, right? So it is generally installed by your manufacturer. So at the time of manufacturing, it comes into the picture, right? And when you talk about the application softwares, so user or admin install software when needed. Like according to your needs, you can install it or uninstall it. Like if I am a person that is not using the Instagram, so why I will install the Instagram application? Because it is not required to me. So I will not install it. But let's suppose I am a network administrator. So I require the packet tracer for the practice, right? So like these, we need some specific application. So at that time, we can install that specific application when it is required, right? The fifth point of system software, runs anytime the computer is on. Means it runs always. So from starting to end, like when you turn on your system, your computer, from starting to end, the operating system will do the work. It is responsible for managing the things, right? But when you talk about the application software, user triggers and stop the program. Means whenever it is required, I will trigger that program, or whenever the work is done, so I can stop that program. Like currently I am using the Zoom meeting for the class. When the class is over, I will close this application and start doing my other work, right? So I will close this application. So whenever I want, I can close this application, or whenever I want, I can start this application. And our system software works in background. Usually, users does not access it. Means currently I am accessing the PPT, means this PDF. So what I'm using my web browser, I'm not accessing my operating system directly. All right. It is working in the background. It is managing all the things in the background. And when we talk about the application software, it runs in the foreground. Usually, users work directly with the software to perform specific tasks. So means for viewing the PPT, we are in this application and viewing the PPT. And our system software runs independently. It does not require any type of application software to run. It is not a compulsory task, right? So it works independently. But the application software needs system software to run. Okay. And it is necessary for the system to functions. Means The system software is necessary for our computers, for the functionality, the proper functionality of our system. But the application software are not compulsory, not needed. It is optional. It is not compulsory to function the system. So this is difference about application system software. So like we also have discussed about the operating system in yesterday's class. Okay. So up to this, any doubt? If you have any doubt, so you can clear it.
No, sir. I'm just traveling. I'm coming from the office only. Today's late. I will attend
Okay.
in the bike. Yeah.
No issue, no
If
issue.
any doubt means I
Take
will
care.
ask in the tomorrow class, sir.
Okay. So now the next discussion about,
This side.
hello. Yes.
I was also traveling the bike, that's why I not took your call. Yes, now I saw your message.
Okay. No issue.
Tomorrow I will
If
join.
you if you are comfortable, so you can join, or either you can manage it from the yes tomorrow session.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Session is completed also.
No, the session is from 8 to 9.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So the next topic is server OS versus client OS. Like when we are talking about the operating systems, we have the two broad classifications of our operating system, right? So our operating systems are classified into two categories. We have divided it into server operating system category and the client operating system category. So we have two divisions, right? So first, a server operating system is designed to manage and provide services to multiple clients, right? So like a server, you can take the example of web server. Web server is responsible for providing the website, web services to the different type of peoples, different type of clients, right? And also the DHCP server. So we have the DHCP server that is serving to the multiple clients. They are handling the request of multiple clients. They are providing the IP address to the client. So servers are responsible to serve any type of services, or they are managing the clients. Okay. So like when you talk about the ADDS server, Active Directory Domain Service server. So it is responsible for managing the multiple clients, managing their authentication process, authorization process. So all these things it is responsible, right? And when we are talking about the client operating system, it isn't built for the personal use, like a personal computing tasks, like the basic task you can do. You can do the browsing stuff, you can do the gaming, and it gives you the more user-friendly interface, right? So these are definitions, and there's a purpose in the tabular format. So first, when we talk about the server operating system, designed to handle network resource, manage users, and serve client requests. So like our client is requesting for the multiple services, like we have the file server and the client are requesting for the files. So what the server is serving to the clients? The server is managing the network resources, right? So server is responsible for managing the different type of services, users, and serves to the client request. And when you talk about the client operating system, so client operating system designed for the personal computing with the user-friendly interface. You can do the tasks like which purpose you can use this operating system. So when you talk about the server operating system, provide services like file sharing, web hosting, database management, and security. So in servers, you can share files, you can create the file server, you can host your website, you can use the hosting services like IaaS, and you can manage the database from the server. You can manage the security with the ADDS. So for these purposes, we will use our server operating system. And when you talk about the client operating system, so it is just for a basic task like browsing, gaming, office work, and the entertainment purpose. So like for the general purpose, we are using the client operating system. Currently, I am also using the client operating system, that is Windows 11 operating system, right? And next, we can compare it by the performance also. Our server operating systems are designed for the heavy workloads, right? So it is optimized for high workloads, handling multiple tasks. So with the help of our server operating system, we can handle the more workload and we can perform the multiple tasks. So it gives you the functionality of multitasking. So you can run multiple tasks easily with the server operating system. And the client operating system is optimized for user experience and daily tasks. So client operating system is good for the daily task operation, day-to-day operations. It is have a user-friendly interface like that. Okay. And when you talk about the hardware, like what is the hardware-wise difference between our server and the client operating system? So you can see that the server operating systems have a slightly good configurations in it. So the server operating system requires a high performance hardware, like it requires the multiple CPUs, the high amount of CPU cores, more RAM or more storage it requires because it have to manage the multiple requests of the clients. So that's why the hardware requirement is also high. And in client OS, you can use the standard hardware like the needs of user. According to the needs of user, you can select the hardware that you want, right? Work on standard consumer hardware. And next, when you talk about the examples, what are the example of these server operating systems and client operating systems? So when you talk about the server operating systems and specifically the products of Microsoft, right? So Microsoft have their different server operating system series and they have the different client operating system series. When you talk about the server operating systems, so Microsoft have Windows Server 2012, Windows Server 2016, 2019, 2022, and the latest one, Windows Server 2025. So these are the server operating systems, right? And from the Microsoft, when you discussed about the client operating systems, so in client end, we have Windows 7, Windows 10, Windows 11. So these are our client operating systems of Microsoft. So our Microsoft have different operating systems for the server functionalities and different operating systems for our client functionalities, right? So this is about the Microsoft. And next point is about the Linux operating systems, right? For the Linux operating systems, we have the same operating systems, right? So in the same operating system can act as a client or same operating system can act as a server also. Just it is difference with the roles. If you want to make a normal client operating system as a server operating system, so you can simply install the services of the servers. So the Linux operating system will behave like a server. Like if you are using a normal Ubuntu machine, Ubuntu Linux version, and inside that Ubuntu, if you will install the services of web, you can install the Apache server. So that means it will act as in web server. And if you will install the DHCP services, so it will act as in DHCP server. So based on the services installed on that particular operating system, it will behave like a server or a client operating system. So there is a no formal difference, no formal classifications, difference between the Linux vendors. So the same operating system can act as in client and same operating system can act as in server also. And when you talk about the different options for using Linux in the server, so we have the Ubuntu server, CentOS, Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So these are the popular editions of Linux that are using for the server ends, right? And client end, we use the graphical friendly versions of our Linux, like Ubuntu, Fedora, Mint, Zorin. So these type of OS you can prefer. And next is the Mac distributions. So Macs have their separate Mac OS servers and they have their separate client, Mac OS clients. So these are the different client operating systems and server operating systems. And we also have discussed about difference between client operating systems and the server operating systems, right? And next we have some small table where we are comparing our Linux distribution and the Windows distribution. Okay, so there is a difference between Linux operating system and Windows operating system. So here you can see that first we have Linux and second we have our Windows. So developer. So who developed this operating system? When you talk about the Linux, so it is an community driven operating system. Mean it is an open source operating system. So that's why the community is responsible for managing this operating system, right? So different type of communities is responsible for management of our Linux operating system. And when you talk about the Microsoft Windows operating system, so it is in proprietary softwares. So the Microsoft is individually responsible for managing these softwares, these operating systems. Okay. And when you talk about the costing, so the Linux distributions, most distributions are free. You can freely download it and freely use it. But when you talk about the Windows, like Windows operating systems, so these are paid up operating systems. So you have to pay the licensing fees for these operating system for using and utilizing the full functionalities of this operating system. You have to pay the minimal charges because it is in paid software, right? Windows required license. And next point is about the customization. You can customize it or not customize it. So when you're talking about the Linux environment, so it is highly customizable because it is an open source software. So you have the source code, and with the help of this source code, you can customize according to your requirements, right? And when you talk about the Windows, so it have the limited customization option, right? So when you talk about the customization option, so it have limited customization options available, but our Linux is highly customizable. And when you talk about the user interfaces, different type of user interface, right? In yesterday's we have discussed we have GUI interface and CLI interface. So we have different type of interfaces. And when you talk about the Linux, so it have multiple desktop environments like Genome, KDE. So these type of multiple desktop environment it have in the GUI, right? And when you talk about the Windows, so it have the standard GUI, like it have the start menu, taskbar. So the standard interface you have. Okay. So next parameter is performance, performance wise. So the Linux is lightweight and efficient operating systems. So it does not require some heavy systems to operate. But when you talk about the Windows operating system, it requires more system resources. So it requires a good hardware resource, right? And the next point is about the security. So when you talk about the security, so Linux is more secure because it have some special security features like SE Linux, Security Enhanced Linux, ACL, and other these type of services it have for the security. And sometimes our Windows environment requires antivirus protection, the external antivirus protection. But nowadays our Defender is also working good. So like that, there is a no strict restriction to use and antivirus software or not, right? Next is about the software support. So Linux have the limited software support, right? So limited official support for commercial softwares. But when you talk about the Windows environment, so wide support for the commercial softwares, right? So it have good support of different type of varieties of applications, right? And next is about gaming. So when you talk about the Linux, so you can run games, but the experience is very much limited. But in Windows, the experience is extensive. So extensive supports of game you can get. And the command line, you can say. So for the command line, we have the powerful terminal in Linux like Bash or Z shell. And in Windows, we have the Windows PowerShell and Windows CMD. And different file systems they are using. Linux use exFAT, exFS. So these file systems are used by our Linux operating system. But our Windows operating system use NTFS, new technology file system, FAT32, file allocation table, exFAT means extended FAT. So these type of different file systems we are using. When you do the disk management now, so you can see these file system options. And the next is about the hardware compatibility. So requires support for some devices because the drivers are limited. So it requires some driver support for some devices because the packet ISO file of Linux operating system is very compact. So it have the less support for different type of devices, the variety of devices. But the Windows environment have broad driver support, right? And when you talk about the updates, so updates are frequent in Linux, but manual control is available. So it depends on you if you want to update it or not. So totally you have the manual control. Like either if you are not want to update your system for 1 year, 2 year, 10 year, like that. So you can't. You can. So you can control the updates manually. And in Windows, we have the automatic updates option. Like the Windows will force you to push the update, right? So it can force you. And the use cases for these operating systems, like generally the Linux environment is used for the development, server, cyber security. And Windows environment is preferred by the general users, businesses, and the gaming. So these are difference between the Linux operating system and the Windows operating system, right? Now our core product is our Microsoft Windows. Like in this class, we are going to deeply focus on the Windows product like Windows 10, Windows 11, Windows Server 2022, 2029, right? So we are going to focus on the servers because the MCSA syllabus is revolving around the servers. And in servers, we are going to work in the current stable version of server. Like when you talk about the most recent one. So the most recent one we have the Windows Server 2025. Okay. And when you talk about the stable version, that is mostly preferring the organizations. So that is Windows Server 2019 and Windows Server 2022. So we are going to practice all the things in Windows Server 2022. They have just a similar interface, right? So let's suppose we have to use an operating system. And what are the various ways to use an operating system, right? How you can use the operating system, any operating system. Like we are here to learn the Windows operating system. So how we can learn it? How we can use that operating system, right? So for that, we have different type of methods to use the operating system. So in these various methods, you can use your operating system, right? So we are here in learning purpose. So what you will do, you will purchase a new server for learning, Are purchase going to purchase any servers and the client computers for the learning purpose? So the answer is no, definitely not. So you will not do the that much expense, right? Because this is not a good practice. Because we are learning, and for learning purpose, we can't invest a lot of money, right? So how you can learn? So we have different type of various options that with the help of these options, we can use the different type of operating systems, right? So here today we will get our best thing that we are going to use for our lab purposes, right? So these are different methods of using the operating systems. Like currently that I am using, so I am using the first method that is direct install. So on the hardware, on the computer hardware, you can directly install that operating system. Like, guys, do you aware about the installation process of operating systems? How in generally the operating systems are get installed in your computer hardware, right? So generally we can use the bootable medias. Either it is a bootable pen drive, a bootable CD. You can use a network boot option. So there are multiple options, right? So we can directly install the operating system on the physical hardware, your computer. So it will give you the full OS experience, like the normal experience of your OS, like currently that we are using in our systems, like that. Okay. So it have fast and full control, right? And we also have the other option like a dual boot option, like into a one physical hardware and physical system. What we can do, we can store two operating system and different drives. So we can use the two operating system inside one physical hardware, but it is not done in a recommended way, right? The setup is complex and simultaneously you can't use the both operating systems. Once you can use the one operating system only. So you have the option to choose. You have to option the switch, but at the same time you can't do it. It is like in half duplex. The two-way communication is possible, but at a time the one can communicate. So like that phenomena, it is working. So we have the dual boot option, right? And next we have the virtual machine. So this is the most suitable option for the learning purpose, for the testing purpose. So safe OS testing, easy, reliable, right? So you can use the virtual machines. So in our course, we are going to use the virtual machines for our labs. So from tomorrow's class, we will start creating our lab, right? So what we have the virtual machines, right? So the virtual machine is used for the testing purpose, deployment purpose. So we are going to use this virtual machines. And another method we have the live USB. Means it is good for the quick testing, the quick deployment. Like no need of installation, no data saving, just a lightweight operating system that works on the USB, like your Hiron Boot series, Medicate. These operating systems work directly with the help of pen drive. So you install the operating system inside the pen drive, and with the help of the pen drive, you can use them. Okay. And next we have WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux, right? So we can run Linux machines on Windows with the help of WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux. It is easy to install, but it have limited hardware access. The hardware level configurations, modifications are limited. And next we have the PXC boot option, right? So we have the PXC server. So with the help of PXC server, you can boot multiple computers. No USB is required, but the setup is required, right? For the PXE server, you need to set up the PXE server. So for PXE boot option, you need to set up an PXE server, right? And other option also you have the cloud VMs, the cloud virtual machines. So learning, if you are learning remotely, so it is very good option. No hardware is needed, right? So no hardware requirement. Just you need a good internet connection. Then you can use the cloud VMs. But according to our requirement, for our condition, we are going with the virtual machines. The virtual machine is the best option for us for our testing and learning purpose. Right? So we are going to create the virtual machines. We will going to learn about the different type of hypervisors available here for creating the virtual machines, how the virtual machines are created. Right. So guys, you have previously used our the virtual machines. Anyone have experience with the virtual machine? No. You are not replying means no. If yes, so you can react the thumbs up. So you can use the reaction button. No, no one is used the virtual machine. Okay, no issue. So we are going to create these virtual machines and we will going to learn about the virtual machines, right? So you need know the physical computer, right? The physical computer, the physical operating system. So we know the physical interface. Like this is my desktop and here I'm using the operating system, right? To have the full experience, like I have the full customization options available. I can customize the things according to my requirements. I can use the full functionality. I can utilize the full functionalities, right? So whatever I want to manage the resources. I can simply go and manage the resources. Like we can go in the disk management. So we can do the modification with the disk, right? We can manage the different device drivers. So we can do all things. So we have the administrative rights, right? So when we use the virtual machine, so it will also give you the all the administrative rights. So with the help of virtual machine, we can perform all our labs and practice. So the virtual machine is just like a small computer. Okay. A small computer that you can use inside your computer. So a logical computer that is present inside your computer. That is simply a virtual machine. It is in simulation of your physical computer, right? So it is what? It is in simulation of your physical computer, right? So I think we will start the virtual machine from the next class. And after this, we will then go with the hypervisor and the practical will start. We'll start installing our operating systems, the Windows operating system installation process, the client operating system installation process, how you can use these hypervisor software, how you can create the virtual machines that we will discuss, right? So up to this slide, everything is clear. Up to this, if anyone have any type of doubt, so you can ask